The assignment requirements document actually begins with a description of how to decide on a subject and how to determine the project scope. I want to leave you with an example of an approach that you can follow to make sure that you fulfill all the requirements of this assignment. So the assignment requires that you create a lesson for your e-learning module. And for example, I could use the topic of an introduction to CSS as my lesson. The assignment requires that you have 5 topics that you develop. The assignment requires that you develop that lesson by means of 5 topics, and that each topic develops a single objective. So for example, if I was to teach an introduction to CSS, I would first start talking about CSS basics, and then I would lead my students to learn how to format all instances of an HTML tag, then how to format a single instance of an HTML tag, then how to format a group of instances, and finally how to format part of the content inside an HTML tag. And so then I would write my objectives. And for this first objective, I would probably want my students to be able to recognize some of the terms that are associated with CSS, like CSS properties, HTML tags, and different things. So I would probably test their knowledge on CSS basics. But then after that, I'm really not interested in just testing their knowledge. I really want them to be able to format HTML tags using CSS. So if I was to write my objective, I would probably focus on teaching my students how to format HTML tags using CSS. So in my case, I would say using an online CSS generator, the student will format all instances of at least 4 tags with a 75% of accuracy. So what I want them to do is I want them to format. I don't want them to tell me how to format. I don't want them to recognize the terms that are important for formatting CSS. I want them to use CSS to format tags. And the same would go for all the other objectives. So if I want them to learn how to format a single instance, my objective will say formatting at least 4 instances of an HTML tag. And what I would be able to do is to look at their work and see if they in fact formatted at least 4 instances of a tag, or at least a group of tags, or that they formatted part of the contents of a particular tag. And so for each topic, there's a single objective, and I write my objectives using the model of my choice. When you're designing your e-learning module, you would be very well served if you worked on your sitemap from the get-go. And so, for example, here I have the 5 topics that comprise my lesson. And for each topic, I am going to design the objective. I'm going to design learning activities, which according to the textbook consist of absorb, do, and connect types of activities. I have to have a means of assessment for each objective. So if I do the same thing for each lesson, then when I'm developing the different kinds of components for my lesson, I will make sure that I have all the components that I need and there's no holes in my design. You are certainly not going to need to develop all the content from scratch. So for example, for the observe activities, you may want to use a textbook and refer the students to a particular chapter. Or you may send the students to view videos that are already posted in YouTube. If alternatively you want to develop your own videos, make sure that you understand that by the submission of the second assignment, you do have to have the script for this video. So anytime you say for any particular part of your module, I'm going to create a video, make sure you know that you will have to have that script ready by the submission of assignment 2. So use a combination between things that you create from scratch and things that you borrow from the web. But do know that you will have to have Each topic developed with its objective following, including learning activities and including a form of assessment, that each word for instructions, each piece of content needs to be present, whether you create it or you borrow it. It needs to be present in your whole project in order for you to get full credit for this assignment. One last piece of advice regarding determining the project scope. During this class, you are going to be developing content. It is not okay to bring a project from another class that you've already submitted. You have to create new content for this class. Obviously, you're going to strike a good balance between creating your own content, as in a new module for this class, but also using some of the content that's available on the web. At the same time, you're going to be implementing instructional design practices that you will learn in this book. And finally, you will have to put it all together in a technology that will be used to deliver the e-learning module. So it would be very good practice for you to find a way to strike a balance between how much content you will develop versus how much content you will borrow from other sources like textbooks and videos. And also, depending on your technology skills and depending on how much time you have available, choose for a technology that you will be able to implement in the next 7 weeks. So if you are interested in learning a new technology, but you know you don't have that much time, just choose something that you already know. If you're really interested in learning a new technology and you're very quick at learning new things and you have enough time, then feel free to experiment with new technologies. But striking a balance between these three items is going to be very important for you to be able to have a manageable experience throughout the course. So I hope these instructions are helpful for you to determine the project scope for your e-learning module.